Welcome, weary traveler. You have stumbled across a comedy chronicle of cranial concoctions, a frenzied fusion of befuddled fables, an exacting expose on eclectic mythos. Should you brave ahead, you will find yourself enlightened, delighted, and only slightly misinformed on the many fantastical worlds that exist within our favorite media. Will you learn all there is to know? That I cannot say. But I can say it will be the lore you know.
And then there's intro music that we don't have yet, and I'm sure we'll figure that out.
You got all the hours of the day.
It's not gonna be that.
Now, if you wanted to be like real, like crazy, we would have like a standard theme song, and then depending on the topic for that week, you would change the style.
We're
of
not
the theme
doing that
song
at all.
to
We're
match,
never
like, the
doing that.
anime
No
heroes.
one's ever done that.
What if we just literally took the opening intro song of whatever show that we're doing and played just enough of it that it's protected?
If we just get an intro, if there's music that's cutting into me right now, that's how we know we've made it. We've done it just right.
Okay, perfect.
And assuming that's the case, hello and welcome back. This is The Lore You Know. It's a podcast about all your favorite media and the deep lore that accompanies it. I am CJ, and today I am very excited. I'm hoping that my frail masculinity will be turned to a more heterosexual nature, but Ethan's foreshadowing me that maybe that won't be the case.
Hi, I'm Fran. I'm excited to learn about why everything is a Jojo reference.
All right, yeah, and I'm Ethan, and I'm here to teach the both of you how to control your breathing to kill vampires. But yeah, so we're gonna get right into it. Like Fran was saying, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is like just this wildly influential series, and it's something that like we didn't know about as much here in the West for a long time because they didn't do like an anime of it, and for until like the 2000s, and none of us are true weebs and didn't read the manga.
I've heard people
definitely
always
seen
talk
it.
about how they're like, I liked JoJo before everyone else started talking about JoJo because I know how to read or some garbage like that.
No, I
Yeah,
definitely
is
remember
not
seeing it in the
any
bookstore
of us.
growing up, but
No,
definitely
it's
didn't pick it up. Not gonna lie.
Fran saw a book with masculine glistening men on it, and she
It was
said,
just too
"That's
much
not
for
for
me."
me."
Too much for me. I can't handle it.
This seems to be some sort of manual on how to have homosexual intercourse with another man, and that's really not my genre. I'm more about little twinkish high school boys.
There we go. Okay, I'm like I say, I
That's-
definitely read that
Mhm.
sort of thing. However,
No, surely Fran is more about the sort of lean swimmer types that exist in your
You're not wrong.
basic.
That's a scary topic.
But JoJo
yeah,
doesn't have any of those.
listen, yeah, we're gonna set aside the swimmer types for a while now because we're talking about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And while we've been sort of slow getting to it here in the West, like in Japan, it has been like crazy influential, and it is like pretty much JoJo and Dragon Ball are the two things that have like entirely created the like shonen genre as we know it today.
I thought it was all about like One Piece and the Naruto, Ethan.
That's
Are you saying JoJo's more influential than those ninja boys?
Yes, I mean those ninja boys were literally influenced by JoJo. So that you're thinking
What?
of
Hold
Gen
on, what?
2, CJ. The
guess.
pirates and the ninjas.
Oh, you're talking about Dragon Ball, like just
Yes.
Dragon Ball, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is before Gugo was
This
a
is
big spaceman.
This is back in the day. Before we like get too deep into it though, I want to help, especially for Fran who hasn't seen it before. I want to paint like a picture in your mind. So we have the creator of this series, Hirohiko Araki. He is like really influenced by the things around him, right? Like this series was made in the 80s and he just like ate up all of the pop culture of the 80s, all of the music culture of the 80s.
Yes.
And he was also this huge this huge fan of like Baroque art. As a young man, he took this like trip to Italy and he just saw like all of the like Renaissance statues of Greek gods just like fucking ripped, you know, like the precision and all that. And he's like, I'm kind of fucking into that pretty hardcore.
Yeah. All right. So this is a man who loves fast music and big rippling men.
Chiseled men, yes.
All right, so yeah,
Quite
yeah.
literally chiseled men,
Yes.
Fran. Thank
So
you.
so I want you to close your eyes here for a second, Fran. I want you
Okay.
to imagine
Oh,
here.
just Fran.
Like actually
Um,
close my eyes.
Yeah.
Oh
What?
God. Okay, sure.
Just close your eyes.
Mhm.
Now I want you to imagine a male character. He is fucking ridiculously ripped. He's just like so incredibly top heavy, bulging with muscles, right?
Okay.
I want you to imagine that he is like posing like a Greek statue for
Okay.
no apparent reason, just in any situation. He's always doing this.
Seems fine. Yeah.
Uh-huh. This
Mhm.
character
Settle down, Fran.
this character is a vampire. And his
Okay.
name is Vanilla Ice.
That can't
And
be real.
that's
That can't be.
that's a real character, and that's like the average. That's the normal for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
So did he name him after actual Vanilla Ice then?
No,
That's
it's a
right,
total
Fran.
coincidence. He's just like, what's
No.
Um,
Don't be mean to our poor friend Fran who's never seen this. Yeah, you're gonna maybe, so everyone says that stuff's a JoJo reference, but like JoJo is a reference to like everything else
Okay.
also.
Okay.
So you're gonna get that a lot. If you're ever like, are they referencing something else? The answer is
The answer
yes.
is yes?
They did do it
yeah,
on purpose.
feel
Okay.
free
Okay.
to
All right.
randomly shout that out when you're like, I know what that's referencing, so that this thing
I
can
get that
take
reference.
like 4 hours for us to go over.
Fran,
Um,
how
God.
read up are you on your like when the metal was real, like those metal bands?
Oh, not very. Okay.
Oh, well, you'll probably
Well,
figure it
it'll
out.
be
I'll
fine,
figure
it'll
it
be
out. I'll
fine.
use context
But
clues.
just
It'll be
but
fine.
just yeah, no, he as a naming convention, he often takes the names of either like actors or singers, but most popularly just like bands that he was listening to, and he just named his characters that. So that's
Okay.
how you just get a character named Vanilla Ice that like they say just totally fucking straight face like, oh shit, and also with like a heavy Japanese accent that just makes it all the cooler. It's like Vanilla Ice.
Oh no.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, their names are
Mm-hmm.
are the English version of it, but they're saying it in Japanese. So
Mhm.
it's
Uh,
all of the names are very good.
yeah, no,
This will
like
be lovely.
Jojo is from that Beatles song that references a character Jojo, like that's where the very first name comes from, and I'm not
I
going to
don't
go over.
understand that reference. I'll say
Nobody
no.
does, unless you really like the Beatles.
I don't. All right.
No, me
Um,
neither.
hot
That-
take.
that's like
Fucking harsh.
I don't dislike the Beatles. I just
We
I don't
weren't a
have any
Beatles fan.
nostalgia.
Anyway,
I don't have any
nothing.
nostalgia for them. Did he name any characters after third wave ska bands? Because I might know that one.
ooh, I think we're not going to get that deep into the series.
Trashman.
But yeah, so
Maybe a
I'm
different
not
episode.
gonna like point out every name that's a reference because I would point out every name, but
Every name's a
I think
reference.
Can you
I think
just-
you'll have some fun with it.
Can you like pop up video it in where it's like every time there's a reference, you just like pew.
No,
This
I'm
is
not
a
going to
reference
do
to
that
this
because
thing.
that's
That's a
too
lot
much
of
work.
editing
So I'm
to
not going
do.
to do that.
It would
All
really
right,
help
um,
me though.
would
Actually,
be
just like if you could pop something up on the
tweet-
screen while you're talking, just like hey.
Tweet at Fran. Here's Fran's tweet.
Tweet
I
tweet
put it up.
at
Fun
Fran.
fact. Yes,
Just
add
add
Fran.
Fran.
Exactly. That's how you find me. Yes.
Mhm.
Hey, this is me, CJ. I'm back here editing it and realizing that maybe instead of doing a funny goof joke, I should just tell you guys that we do have a Twitter. It's at SpicesWith. Why don't you go follow us? It'll be a good time. I might say a joke. We'll let you know the latest updates. You know, just something to consider. Get on over there, you scamp. Tweet at Fran. Let her know all the references.
No, all right. So we're getting into it.
Oh boy.
And so
Oh, now we're getting into it. Okay. I don't know what we were doing before.
I mean, we're getting into the series proper now. We're starting the scene, CJ.
Thank God. All right. Well, I actually know these first bits, so I can't wait
I
to
don't.
help you tell this story
Uh-huh.
to Fran.
Gonna learn
Um,
so many things.
So our series begins in just like early 20th century Europe, and we have this just rich, well-to-do like European aristocrat and his fucking he is just like crashed on the side of the road, and he's like totally unconscious. This guy, this like random hoodlum comes up to like slit his throat and take his money, and at that exact moment the rich lord wakes up and he's like, "Oh, did you save my life?" He's like, yes, okay.
Yes, I did.
I'm forever indebted to you, thank you." And so our character George Joestar has
You
now
know all of those 1900s era rich aristocrat
Yeah,
families,
Yeah.
all
rich
known as the
Joestar.
Joestars.
Yeah.
the rich lord family of the Joestars.
Yeah.
A very prestigious name.
Obviously.
So he is now like linked his family to this Brando guy, and he owes a debt to him, right?
It's a meeting of fate.
That's sure a meeting of anime. But yeah, so we go forward like 10 years, something like that, and George Joestar has his son Jonathan, who's like just enjoying his life being a rich kid, pretty good deal being a rich European lord and such.
Yeah. He's just a scrawny little white dude whose family is very rich. You would, if this was an anime about him at this phase in his life, you would probably care about it because he's right in that demographic right now.
But on the other side we have Dio Brando, who is the son of that brigand who almost slit his throat but instead got like a permanent life debt, and he is like he's caring for his poor like dying father. They're like living in the slums somewhere. Dio fucking hates this and hates everyone else who exists. Just like
Mostly his dad.
he hates his dad. He goes to like gamble and win some money off like a chess game, even though he's like 10 years old, because he's super smart, and like he wins and the guy just like smacks his face onto the thing. He's like, "I'm not paying you," and like Dio's like, "Okay, I hate all people everywhere." But as his dad's dying, he says like, "Oh, my son who I care about, I have a life debt with this rich guy, and I want you to go live with him now." And so Dio, this plucky, hateful fuck. I don't know. Can you put plucky and hateful together? I think I think Dio pulls it off.
He's driven and competent at a young age. He knows what he wants.
He's driven, competent, sociopathic, and he knows what he wants.
So he's going to be a politician one day, but
Okay.
until then, he's like 14,
Right.
which is the same age as Jojo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
no,
it-
they're
Is Jojo
Jonathan-
Jonathan?
Jonathan Joestar.
Jonathan
he goes by
Joestar, who
Jojo.
we're gonna refer to as Jojo from here out.
Okay.
He is Jojo of the titular character JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. So you can imagine he's about to have a pretty crazy ride, because of the title card.
Is this a
Indeed.
situation where I should be like taking notes of how everyo's related?
There's just
that be
JoJo
helpful?
and Dio. That's all that
Okay,
matters.
that's all I need to
JoJo
keep
is
track
the
of.
son
Yeah,
of a rich
yeah.
aristocrat, and
And
Dio
Dio's father
is
has a
the
life
son
debt.
of a man who has a life debt with JoJo's dad,
Who is the rich? Okay.
Right.
who's
right.
the
yeah.
rich aristocrat.
So
Okay.
so
Cat.
basically,
Cat.
Dio gets absorbed into JoJo's family. Right. It's just JoJo's dad and him, and
JoJo's dad is like, yes, your father saved my life. You are my new son. So he's basically like JoJo's brother now.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. And
He's his
so
adopted brother.
All right.
yeah, so they've
As
they've
early European aristocrats do.
right.
Yeah, I mean, they just
Life
like,
debt
yeah,
and
I've
such.
got
There's no
like
papers anyway.
I've got like 18 bedrooms. Yeah, I don't care if you stay
Yeah,
in one.
it's fine.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
no, they do live in some kind of like mansion-y thing. It's all cool.
There's all these like definitely not pilfered artifacts on the wall from like other countries. You know how like white people like to
Yeah.
do.
That's right.
Mhm. But yeah, so Dio like looks into these digs and he's immediately like, man, I should really like find a way to kill both of these people and take this place for myself now.
Oh wow, that took a turn.
this
All
stuff.
right.
Everyone just to like lay this out. Dio is crafty. Like everyone thinks he's like a great guy. That's his whole thing. Is like everyone likes Dio. They talk about how cool he is and how
Mhm.
nice to be around he is. Like everyone is like, oh, Dio's great. He's not going around
Right.
being like, I'm going to take everything that you have. He's like, oh, my dearest father, I do love you so dearly.
Yeah,
And he's
I've-
like,
I've
"Oh,
been here
Dio,
for a
I love
day,
you more.
and I've
I love
grown
you
to
more
love
than
you."
my own son. Yeah.
But yeah, so Dio is like he's manipulating all the people around him to try and like take over all the estate and such. But for Jojo, he's just straight up like, fuck this guy, right? So Jojo and Dio have this like, they have like your classic kind of like two kids who are fighting it out sort of thing. Like Dio
Sibling rivalry for
sibling
those
sibling
who
rivalry
have
basically.
spoken the English language their whole life.
So Dio, he like shows off his excellent table manners so that Jojo looks bad when he's sitting next to him at the table. He
Standard sibling stuff.
steals the first kiss from Jojo's like crush, right?
Oh,
he
shit.
Wait, you can't just gloss over that whole
you
thing.
can't just what fucking
we need to start chucking along, but like she's like, oh, I really like Jojo. I can't wait to give my first kiss to Jojo. And
Mhm.
Jojo's like, oh man, I can't wait to get that kiss from that girl. It's gonna be great. And then he's just like, oh, she like slights him or something. She like says something. Dio or this girl like slights Dio, and also he knows that Jojo likes her, and so he's like, huh. I don't like it when women slight me, and I don't like it when my brother type person is happy. So he's just like, hey girl, and she's like, yeah, I'm waiting for Jojo, and he's like, yeah, get on over here, and then he just makes out with her, and he's like, haha, I am your first kiss now, girl, and she's like, no,
Oh.
my first kiss will never be with Jojo.
So
yeah,
question.
I mean,
Is this a trope that originated because of this series, or is this a trope that's just
the
an
answer is
anime
always
Rape?
yes.
No, I don't
no,
think so.
No, the answer is
manga?
always
I've definitely
yes.
seen that happen before in series.
That's where the meme comes from. He's like, you thought your first kiss was going to be with Jojo, but it was with me, Dio. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
He didn't like do a clever trick or anything. He just like kissed her on the mouth, and she was like, I didn't like that. And he's like, doesn't matter, still your first kiss. And she's like, no, you're right. And then she got really sad.
She's pretty hardcore about it though. She like gets down on the ground and starts taking like dirt water into her mouth, and she's like,
she's like,
cleaning my mouth out from your kiss. And then I think he just fucking like smacks her for it.
Yeah,
like
he's like,
he sounds like a terrible person. Goodness
no,
gracious.
she was. Oh yeah, at this point, only Jojo knows that he's like a shit bird. Like everyone else thinks he's great.
Also knows he's a shit.
Well,
bird.
yeah, but she's a girl in the early 1900s, so nobody cares about what she says.
Fair.
Right. No, like George Joestar, the dad, he's like, oh, look at Dio's table manners. He's the best boy, I think.
I'm so glad that he got that kiss from that girl. It was non-consensual. What kiss is? Am I right? Anyway, gonna go steal some more artifacts from Central America now.
I mean,
but yeah, so you know, they do the regular sibling rivalry thing, right? There's like fighting over table manner stuff. There's stealing you steal the kiss from their sweetheart. You drug the Jojo's dog and put him in the trash incinerator so that he accidentally gets cooked to death by one of the servants. Like,
yeah, that
all
was
just the regular stuff, right?
okay.
Yeah, you know, Fran, you know how like
Yes.
when you know how you and your sister would like fight over the hairbrush, or sometimes one of you would drug your beloved dog because it was your only friend in the whole world, and then they put the drugged dog into the family trash incinerator so that the next time your servant went to go incinerate the trash, they would accidentally light your dog on fire. You know, like that.
Okay.
Right. And of course,
that's a thing that happened.
Jojo's dad is totally just like, now Jojo, how many times did I tell you not to put your unconscious dog in the trash incinerator?
Yeah, at this point, Jojo's dad is like specifically against Jojo. He's like, Jojo, you need to be more like Dio. He never leaves his unconscious dog in the trash incinerator to get incinerated.
Oh boy. Okay.
Yeah, no, that is kind of like the point in when you're watching the first few episodes where you're suddenly like, okay, things are a little different than I originally thought they would be.
He stole a kiss. He's making all his friends not like Jojo. It's pretty whatever though. And then he's like, Jojo's only friend in the world. Yeah, Jojo's only friend in this world is his dog that he trusts. I'm going to make him burn alive. And then he just does that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't show the dog burning alive on screen, but they do show the exterior of the trash incinerator.
The dog's cries are audible.
The dog crying through, trying to escape as it's being burned alive.
Oh, no.
So it starts to get a little hardcore.
I don't like that.
At this point, you're like, oh, I guess Dio is just regular evil now.
Okay. So straight sociopath. I get it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so we sort of we skip forward a little bit, and both Dio
past
and
the dog murder.
The dog murder.
Okay.
We're now like, 5 years later, whatever. They're just getting into their college years, and both of them have like, they've sort of dug in their heels and are just doing this like fake friendship thing for his dad. Like, his dad's just, oh, I'm so glad that the two of you became friends. And they're just like, haha, yes. But inside they're like, I must do anything to stop Dio.
Yeah.
Or
Every time Jojo was like, hey, Dad, I think Dio's a bad guy, his dad was like, now, Jojo, you need to stop being so jealous of your way cooler adopted brother. He is my favorite, and I wish you were more like him. So presumably at a certain point, Jojo's like, all right, well, I give up trying to explain that he's a dick to people, and I'm just going to pretend like we're good friends and brothers. But they both have harbored a burning hatred towards each other that it takes all of like, there's a time skip, and then they're like cooperating with each other, and then just immediately it goes to both of their internal monologues, and they're like, I fucking hate that guy so goddamn much. God, I wish he was dead.
I feel like JoJo's hatred is a little deserved.
Jojo absolutely has like good, like, yeah.
Well, that's fair.
Yeah,
Completely fair.
they're not even
He's
in their
absolutely
hatred
justified.
reasons, but in their justifications here.
Dio's
but
just kind of an ass, it sounds like.
Dio is a crazy person who tries to take everything Jojo loves, and Jojo just doesn't like that about him. And that's their dynamic.
That's their dynamic.
Fair. Okay.
Classic
also,
sitcom dynamic.
Also, they're like 19 now and fucking huge.
They're
like
so
before,
ripped.
they were scrawny little like middle schoolers or whatever, and they weren't like, they're still anime middle schoolers, so they weren't like, totally scrawny.
They were
But
pretty
drawn
normal
pretty
looking
scrawny.
kids.
They were drawn pretty scrawny for anime characters. They're fucking jacked now. They apparently, in the meantime, they have just been doing nothing but a full protein diet and like 3-a-day workouts. They are gargantuan now, which
My
is their sort of
early 20th century Europe is that all men were really
That's
jacked once they
Right.
hit like 18 years old.
Yeah, that's
because
fair,
there
that's
was
fair.
so much. All of the food was plentiful, and
Yeah.
it was all filled with proteins. So
Yeah.
they would
So-
just really
Water,
get
protein.
They would just get really so fucking swole.
Oh,
Yeah.
the famine has taken all of our potatoes. We have nothing left but whey protein.
And that's why they were. They were just so huge. They all had scurvy, but they were all jacked.
But okay. So Jojo, like, he does fucking hate Dio, but he doesn't quite know that, like, Dio's legit wants to kill them and steal their like treasure and all that stuff. So Jojo's just trying to like continue on with his life. He's starting to learn about archaeology because he is really interested in all of the artifacts that his dad has indeed like pilfered from indigenous people and such.
Yeah, you thought that was just a background thing. but
Archaeology.
nope, that's
Right.
a plot point.
No, that's archaeology. And like one of these ones that he's like particularly interested in is this stone mask. And it's just this fucking like crazy looking ancient stone mask that has like these little vampire teeth on it and these like swirly symbols all over it. It's got an inscription on the inside that like nobody knows the language to.
Is
And it
Jim
does this really-
Carrey's The Mask a JoJo reference?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
definitely.
actually, when Jim Carrey puts on the mask, he goes, this is actually a reference to Jojo, and then he goes, somebody stop me
I fully expect this to
from
not happen.
referencing Jojo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that's Jim Carrey is actually a weeb. Not a lot of people know that, but he
Jim
was in the
Carrey's a
Sonic the
huge weeb.
Hedgehog
See it.
movie, and he only did that because of the Archie comics. So
But yeah. So it's this mask that nobody can figure out, except it does this really weird thing where when you get even like just a drop of blood on it, fucking spikes shoot out of it and try to clasp onto the nearest head.
face, yeah.
But
But they don't do that because they're a rich family and they just keep it sort of on their clean, pristine wall. So they've
Mhm.
never figured that out yet. Not
Okay.
yet.
Yeah, no, like Jojo's, he's starting to do his archaeology like research on it, but it's all still kind of like new to him and such, right? And so meanwhile, Dad Joestar, George, he's getting like hella sick. Like he's just old and he's probably the tuberculosis, you know how it is.
Yeah, he's probably got gout or some other rich people
Right,
thing. But,
right.
You know,
And like, he's all like, oh, look at good boy Dio brings me my medicine every day and Jojo fucking sucks. And so Jojo starts doing a little investigation into this. He heads into he follows Dio to the downtown where he meets his friend and sort of just hooligan Richard E.O. Speedwagon, who will be
his name's Ario Speedwagon.
Yes, I got that. Thank
Did you get the
Yeah.
reference, Fran?
I yes, I did. Lovely. Continue.
Speedwagon.
Speedwagon. Yeah, and he's just referred to lovingly as Speedwagon from there out.
Of course.
Good.
And yeah, like Speedwagon comes in to mug Jojo, but he's like impressed by Jojo's resolve when I believe Speedwagon's thing was he threw a hat, like a fucking Odd Job hat with like blades around the edge of it at Jojo. And Jojo just like caught it with his bare hands. And he was like, oh, he caught it, even though he knew that would like cut up his hands and ruin them forever. That's manly as shit.
This is also where we discover Speedwagon's sort of main character trait, where he just describes everything that Jojo is doing and why he's doing it.
Okay.
So
Helpful.
he is, I guess he's sort of your Watson character. If Watson existed in a space where you as the viewer could see and comprehend everything that's happening already, but he decides to tell you about it anyway because he just wants to make sure you know, wow, that must have really hurt his hands to touch those spiky bits. I'm very impressed by that. His hand must have been wounded by that attack, and it was, and you could see it, but
It's
there.
Just in case.
Yeah, and that is like, you see that in anime all the time nowadays, and like Speedwagon is the origin of that, of like having the third character who's watching the fight describing every moment of the fight to the viewers, and like
if you imagine like a Dragon Ball Z fight where they're all fighting and one character is like, wow, they're fighting so fast I can't even see, and the other character is like, wow, they're fighting very fast and I can see, and this is what's happening. It's kind of like that, except everyone can see what's happening, and he's just sort of narrating that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things that I have to imagine works better in a manga where like it's all still frames, but when it's like animated, it is just like a long period of a guy talking to you about what you are currently seeing.
But
he's
good.
He's a good boy. We all love Speedwagon.
He's maybe one of my favorite characters, other than perhaps Jojo.
But anyway, so in our dealings with like following Dio here, we find out that Dio is heading to a really terribly stereotyped Chinese man in order to get a secret poison that he's slowly killing George Joestar with. The very same
guessed?
Poison that he killed his dad with. His dad wasn't sick at all.
Yeah, he killed his own dad because he hated him so much.
Because he just fucking hated him.
That
he
part
kills
I
all his
didn't
dads.
guess. That part I didn't guess. The first one where he's
No, pretty
trying to kill
much anyone
George,
who
for
dies. Yeah, pretty much anyone who dies is Dio. Turns out.
Mm-hmm.
early 20th century ricin. Got it.
He's a scamp. He's just a little scamp.
He's
Just
a little
Mercury.
scamp with his little poisons and such. So Jojo is uncovering all of this stuff. But meanwhile, Dio has stolen the stone mask and is doing a little bit of experimenting on his own. And when
he figured out how the stone mask, he figured out how the stone mask works because he and Jojo had a fight in the dining room, and he punched Jojo so hard that his blood splattered against the wall, and it hit the mask and turned it into a vampire mask. And he's like, that's pretty cool.
Okay.
And so now he's like, I'm gonna check this out a little more.
No, so Dio, like, again in these like back alleys of old England, is like getting mugged, and he smacks this mask onto one of the muggers, and it like, gets some blood on it. It digs its claws into the mugger, and he's like, haha, I killed him with it. But here's a little surprise for you, Fran. That mask doesn't kill people when it sticks the spikes in. It turns them into fucking vampires.
Just turns them into regular vampires.
Oh.
Just sort of your generic vampire.
What a handy dandy little tool he's got there then.
It's like an Aztec mask, by the way, which I assume every culture has their own version of what a vampire is, but it just turns you into like just like your standard Dracula vampire. Turns you into that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So, and
I can roll with that.
Yeah. And Dio's just like very lucky, like he turns this mugger into a vampire, and the mugger's like, well, I'm going to kill you now. But it just so happened that he did that to the mugger like 30 seconds before dawn, and then the light of day comes in and does incinerate the mugger. And he was like,
Okay.
I learned a lot of things about how this works today.
I learned a lot of things
if you're
today.
a vampire, don't be in sun. 2, I could be a vampire, maybe.
So they have their showdown where Jojo reveals to, like, he gets the cops involved, and he reveals that Dio has been poisoning their dad, and Dio is like surrounded by all these people, all these cops, the charade is up and everything, and of course Dio puts the mask on and becomes a vampire, and just starts fucking tearing through the police officers. He starts drinking their blood with his fingies, which is a special
Fran,
trait of Aztec vampires.
How do you think he drains blood? Because he does have vampire fangs. He grows vampire fangs in his mouth.
Okay.
He has vampire fangs, but he does just stick his fingies in their neck and like somehow straw slurps their blood out that way.
This anime is very strange in that it really doesn't want to have a lot of homoerotic moments. Like sucking on another man's neck. You could call it bizarre. You could. Sucking on another man's neck is a little sexy, but stabbing your finger into his neck to suck out blood is less sexy. You do still get the vampire teeth though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So yeah, like the fucking in the chaos, the mansion starts on fire. Like Jojo's dad is killed. All these cops are killed, and Jojo and Dio have this like epic battle to try and avenge his father. Jojo is able to like knock him down off of the roof, like through a hole in the ceiling onto this gigantic statue of like the goddess of love that they just happen to have, probably stole from Greece, that impales Dio on it. And Jojo's like, leaves his burned mansion. He's like, all right, I lost everything, but at least I destroyed that evil monster Dio.
I assume
no
he
more.
didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fran, have you been paying attention?
You're Fran, you're kind of spoiling it here.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
But ruin the little twist at the end, but yeah, all right.
Enter our character, Will L. Zeppeli.
Okay, I'm gonna pause before we enter this new character. So during this whole Dio Jojo fight, the jig is up. Was George already dead from the poisoning, or just like mostly dead?
He died in the estate fire that took Dio's house, Jojo's house, both of their houses.
Okay. Right? Yeah. No, we have Jojo does get that like beautiful moment of his dad being like, I guess I was wrong, son, and Dio was pretty bad, and I like you. And then Dio fucking stabs his dad and kills him.
Okay, so he didn't die in the fire. He died from being stabbed.
Well, there was a fire at the time.
There was a fire. There's a lot of things. Listen, Fran, the best thing that can happen to you as a man, the best thing in your life that could happen to you is that finally your father says he's proud of you, and then right afterwards he dies so that he can't ever go back on those words.
Yes, I was just hoping that happened. I just wanted that clarification.
It did. That did happen.
Sure did happen.
Okay, good.
So we now know that Jojo is an anime protagonist because he reached the peak. He did it. His dad said he's proud, and then he croaked before he could ever think anything differently.
Backsies.
He was like, wow, you could kill Dio maybe, and then he maybe did, but then maybe he didn't.
Also, how did the love statue have something to be impaled upon if it's a love statue?
She just has like...
Yeah, it was just like a pose.
Oh,
right.
It's just a really pointy hand.
Weirdly sharp hand.
She's holding some kind of thingy up that's all stabby and whatnot.
Yeah, he gets stabbed by like a candelabra kind of shape, or maybe like some scales or something.
Pointy statue. But
listen, we're not here to dissect all of the imagery.
I'm just
he
trying
was
to get
stabbed
a good
on a
picture.
statue. Yeah, no, I feel you. So I just want to make sure you're caught up, Fran. You got that Jojo, all of his family members have been killed by Dio in some capacity, usually by some adjacency to fire, and also it's just Jojo now. He doesn't have his mighty estate or father, and presumably whatever his father did that made them rich, they don't have that anymore really either. So
no, I mean they're still pretty rich. They're still just kind of baseline rich
or something.
He's fine.
So I'm just trying to, in my brain, I'm aware of the general idea of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, that there's like different, each season, there's like a different JoJo.
Oh, Fran,
spoilers. Wow.
Damn it, Fran.
So I'm trying.
There are several JoJos.
So I'm trying to to figure out how this storyline fits into the idea that there's more. So the whole vampire
This
thing
is the origin. This is the origin story of all of the bizarre adventures that are to come.
Yeah, so I'm
There's
assuming
so many
the vampire
bizarre
mask is
adventures,
important.
Fran.
That I should.
It should be called JoJo's
Bizarre Adventures.
Bizarre's Adventures. Yes.
I'm trying to make some threads that could maybe catch on something.
Well,
all you need to know for now is that
I'm
Dio
going to lead
exists.
you along through them so that you don't have to worry about threading it yourself.
But first, this commercial break? There's no commercials in this. Hey,
no...
we're back. Wow, you paid for premium. I'm impressed. I didn't think anyone would. All right. Hey, Ethan.
Patreon subscription.
Tell us about Jojo and Dio.
We're talking...
And Speedwagon.
And
well, now I'm going to tell you...
Now I'm going to tell you about Zeppeli.
Fran, can you guess what that's a reference to? Because that one's the hardest one to get.
I'm sure it's Black Sabbath. No, it's Led Zeppelin.
It is Led Zeppelin, yes.
You did it, Fran.
He took the N off the end, which makes it Italian, you see.
That is the most obscure reference because it's not exactly what he was referencing. It's just one letter away from
letter
that.
off.
All right.
Everything else is just a 1 for 1. But Zeppeli, this intricate, deep character, no, he can't be a direct reference. He's got to be 1 letter off.
Okay.
It makes him sound more Italian.
He is Italian.
So Jojo's just kind of like, he's just walking along the like little stream side, you know, he's like, well, I wonder what I do with my life now. Maybe I'll just go like be rich somewhere else and such. When suddenly this dude in like a white suit and checkered top hat comes up and he's like, hey kid, you did all right there, but if you think you killed that vampire, you're a fucking idiot. And Joe's like, excuse me? And he's like, check it out, I'm gonna punch this frog. And then Zeppeli just goes over.
This is not an exaggeration of what happened. This is the sequence of events and how he introduces himself. He's like, wow, you killed a vampire, huh? And he's like, yes. He's like, all right, check this out. And then he punches a frog.
Then he just goes up to this frog, like, chilling in the middle of the stream, just punches right down on this frog. You see like a small frame of like this frog like squishing under his fist, and then the rock beneath the frog breaks and the frog's totally fine and swims away. And
yeah, I want you to imagine this fake out that they're trying to do where he's like, you think that's neat, watch this. And then he punches a frog and your first instinct is, wow, he really destroyed that frog with his punch. But then the rock underneath it breaks and you go, wow, he's really strong. He broke that rock through that frog's corpse. But then behind the broken rock, the frog just leaps out. And by the way, this is the most like chill rendering of a frog. It's just sitting there, just sort of letting whatever happens around it happen around it. And he sees this guy coming to punch him and he's like, meh, whatever. I've lived a good life. And he gets punched. And then afterwards he just hops away because he's fine. Because Zeppeli has an amazing new technique to show Jojo.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't what I thought was going to happen. I thought it was going to be some metaphor for vampires not dying, but sure. We'll go with the technique.
No,
Fran,
the frog is not a vampire, Fran.
You're thinking a little too deeply on this, Fran, or you're like trying
really
to follow some kind of through line, and I'm afraid that's not going to work for Jojo here.
I really was hoping for a vampire frog, though. Not gonna lie, but that's okay.
No, he's just a good boy frog. He's just a good little frog.
Yeah, the frog is maybe actually one of my favorite characters in the whole anime. I changed my mind. Put a picture of the frog up. Hey, if you're looking on video, look at this fucking frog.
Yeah, Speedwagon tier 2, frog tier 1 for sure. So Zeppeli like he comes and he tells Jojo like, you didn't kill that vampire. The only thing that can kill a vampire is the power of the sun. However, I am going to teach you how to breathe correctly. And breathing correctly will allow you to exude sun power out of your system, which can let you kill vampires or punch frogs and break the rocks beneath them.
I was going to say, how did this apply to the poor frog that was minding his own business?
Because, Fran, every living creature exhibits this energy, including frogs, but vampires are not living creatures, so they don't have this energy, and it destroys them. So vampires are like the rock.
I say, so the rock is a vampire.
And Jojo is the frog. And Jojo is going to conduct this energy into the vampire, which will kill the vampire, but leave the frog untainted.
Okay. So once again, rock is a vampire.
As long as you breathe good.
Yeah.
Breathing good. Okay. Breathing good is essential to this technique.
Okay.
It is a breath technique.
Yeah. So this ability is called Hamon, and
Hamon energy.
There's a bunch of shit to it, but what you need to understand is that, like,
there's almost nothing to it. The rules don't apply.
I mean, there's a bunch of rules that constantly change and blah blah blah, but the big things that you need to understand is that you control this ability through your breathing, right? So there's this technique of breathing you need to do. And that this ability is basically gives you the power to channel sunlight energy through hitting things, and it works in this sense of rippling. It's called, like, that's the English translation is like the ripple technique, but that sounds dumb, so we call it Hamon. And
they just called it Hamon it's like when Bleach characters do their move, but they just say the English version if that's better. The English version is stupid, so they're just like, okay, it's a Getsuga.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're not calling it ripple breath or whatever the fuck it's called. We're just gonna call it Hamon because then the English people will think it's cooler. And we do.
And we do, for sure, it is. But yeah, and so the fact that this is like ripply and such, it also means that, like, you can control it more or less based on the medium that you're pushing it through. So like Zeppeli pushed it through this frog without hurting the frog because the frog's a great channeler of Hamon energy.
The frog is a great Hamon conductor.
And the rock isn't, so the rock just like takes the force and explodes from it. Like water and liquids in general are like great Hamon conductors.
Also swords, but we'll get to that later.
I was not going to bring that up at all, but no, so like Jojo goes through like the classic training montage of learning how to use Hamon, right? And he's got this whole thing where he needs to like I think one of the things is he has to like hold a glass of wine upside down and not have any of the wine spill out because he's stopping it from spilling with his Hamon traveling through the wine, right?
Which he does because Zeppeli is Italian and Italian people love wine. So he's just like, you must not spill even one drop of the wine.
There's a lot of wine-based training. Zeppeli's
it's almost exclusively wine-based training.
Okay.
This is not like your usual like anime training, by the way, because sometimes those can last whole arcs. But this genius of a creator knew that would be boring as shit. So it's basically half an episode of him like being like, yeah, learn how to do this, and at the end he's like, well, you're not a master, but you're good enough and you don't spill the wine, so get out there, you little scamp.
He learns Hamon and he uses it to kill some zombies, which is what Dio has been doing.
Killing zombies.
It turns out,
making zombies.
As Aztec masks make vampires, but vampires, when they suck blood, make zombies. And so
so the police people are zombos now?
The zombies, they're similar to the vampires in that they're like, you know, they're super strong, they're undead, they die to sunlight, but they can't create more vampires. If a zombie drinks blood from something, it makes another zombie. and they all serve the like whatever vampires at the top of their pyramid scheme.
So it's a pyramid scheme.
Mm-hmm.
Got it.
It is, yeah. You're never going to be as successful as the guy on top, but you hope that you get enough zombies underneath you where you can sort of chill out at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so Dio he's been drinking blood, he's been making zombies, and he has sort of like set up this base of operations in this whole town that he has like sucked dry, that also just happens to be the like ancient site of like a crazy like Knights challenge test castle. Don't worry about that.
It's basically like Dracula's castle almost.
Ah,
it's very
convenient.
weird how closely that aligns with that.
Are we still in England? Or
I
did he
mean,
go to Italy?
We're still in Europe.
We're in Europe for sure.
Okay.
Maybe Transylvania, it seems like, right?
Okay.
Who can say?
All right.
But yeah, so Jojo's learned his new abilities, and he goes to
Just the one, actually.
I mean, well, he's learned how to use Hamon. He's learned how to breathe real good.
He can punch with Hamon energy now.
He can punch with Hamon energy. He can ripple it through water and such. And so he goes to this city, right? Him and Zeppeli and Speedwagon. And
yeah, they're all a big fun group now. They all hung out together. As Zeppeli, that's the other good thing about Zeppeli. He's not the kind of master who's like, and now you've mastered this technique, go forth and use it. No, he's like, no, I'm gonna come with you. I don't like we're fighting vampires. This ain't no laughing matter. Let's go. He's been training his whole life to fight vampires in a world where vampires just don't exist yet. But then a vampire started existing, and he's like, oh, thank God I was doing this the whole time.
Yeah. Well, Zeppeli's whole thing was like Zeppeli's dad was the one who originally discovered that mask, and he turned into a vampire and tried to kill his son. And Zeppeli, like, he got out into the sunlight, he survived, whatever. But he was like, so vampires are more of a problem than I previously thought they were. I'm going to train and learn how to deal with this.
It would be like if you went outside one day and started sinking into the concrete and you had to like crawl your way out, and you're like, so I guess quicksand is a thing now. I should come up with a technique to deal with quicksand more.
Yeah.
And then you started teaching other people about that because it turns out other people are falling into the concrete as well.
So much quicksand everywhere. But yeah, so like we can't get into like every detail of the fights.
But can I talk about the one where he was fighting a zombie and he's like, I can't beat this zombie because he threw me underwater, and then he's like, but wait, this town exists above an old mining town, and there's one thing I know about old mining towns. So he swims to the bottom of the lake, and he's like, mining towns always have tunnels underneath them that leak air up into the water, because he can only use his technique if he's breathing, because it's a breathing technique, and if you're underwater you're not breathing. So he swims down to the bottom and he finds little bubbles coming out, and he sucks up the bubbles. He's like, oh, this counts as air. And then when he does that, he's able to do a Hamon punch underwater. And he's like, I hope I don't. Yeah, he's like, I hope I don't have to do any more underwater fights, because that was annoying and I can't breathe underwater.
Yes, and
the it is a breathing technique, Fran.
You
always
have
remember
to be able
that
to breathe. Okay.
You have to be able to breathe
weakness.
to use the technique.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Space,
Not
and there's other stuff, and he fights a guy with a sword, and it's a luck sword, and it says luck on it. And then he fights the guy, and then he like kills the guy, and he's like, "Oh, you defeated me, and I even had my lucky sword. How is this possible? Maybe there's something stronger than luck. But what could it be?" So he takes his blood and he puts a P with his blood in front of the L, and he's like, "You have pluck, which is better than luck, but also you need both. Here's this sword, I'm giving it to you." And so from then on, he has the sword of luck and pluck, which he says is the sword of luck and pluck, which is what the name of the sword is for the rest of the series for some reason. So Jojo is wielding a sword now. And it's like an old-timey English fancy sword. It's not a rapier, it's a long sword, but it says luck engraved on it, but then it has a P in blood of his enemy friend. It's the sword of pluck and luck.
Okay.
So that's everything.
All
that was
on
everything.
the way to try and fight Dio.
All to go fight
yes,
Dio.
The journey towards the vampire land.
Yeah, I just had to bring up those
Dio.
2 things because those 2 things are the best 2 things that happen in the whole arc.
Okay.
The Sword of Luck and Pluck, which other people reference as the Sword of Luck and Pluck, even though they weren't there when it was sort of christened as that. But
well,
whatever,
it says right on the side of it.
It does say.
It says pluck in blood, and then it says luck not in blood.
Yeah.
So
the
like,
sword of luck and pluck.
The Sword of Luck and Pluck. I'm gonna put it up like 40 times.
Yeah.
By the way, editing.
That's like Speedwagon's superpower, right? He narrates all things, so he just knows that it's called the Sword of Luck and Pluck.
He's created something new. It's no longer a sword of luck. Now it is a sword of luck and pluck.
Oh my god.
Okay.
So we keep like climbing up this castle tower that was made to challenge medieval knights with crazy like tests and such. And during this, Zeppeli has to like tragically sacrifice himself in order for Jojo to proceed. And like there's like this big moment where Zeppeli has like literally been ripped in half but is still alive, and he's just like, Jojo, you need to keep fighting on. And here, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I can transfer my Hamon energy to you, ripple it into you and such.
Helpful.
And so Jojo,
which, by the way, he is the top half of a man right now, but he's using a breathing technique to keep him alive.
He's still got his lungsies there, so
you still can breathe if you're just a top half, which he is. Also, I'd like to point out that when you described him, my first instinct was to say he's sort of an upside down ska boy, because instead of checkered shoes and white pants, he's got a checkered hat and a white shirt. He's not a rude boy. He's a polite boy. It's the upside down.
Yeah,
he's
very good.
I brought up ska in the first act, and I brought it back.
You did. I'm proud of you, CJ.
Like all ska.
But yeah, so our Hamon master is gone now, right? And we have just Jojo, who is still pretty new to this whole Hamon thing, but he's now like he's a little bit supercharged and such, right?
And Speedwagon's still there.
And of course, Speedwagon is still there.
Of course. Okay.
He's explaining everything. He's like, wow, he's in half, but he's still using his breathing techniques because he's a top man.
Wherever narration is necessary, you know that Speedwagon will be there.
Thank you, Speedwagon. Thank you.
That's the only reason I knew how Jojo was able to use Hamon underwater, because he explained all the things about the mining town and about breathing underwater and all of that stuff.
Oh,
thank you,
Jojo knows that this is a mining town, which therefore means
that under the water there's bubbles coming up, and he can use that to use Hamon.
No, a salute to Richard E.O. Speedwagon,
who isn't dead, and spoiler, does not die in this series. This series is all about dramatic sacrifice
well, you
for
can't
the greater good. But they
don't
don't sacrifice Speedwagon, no sir.
He seems really integral.
He is.
He is the core of any team.
Should be Speedwagon explaining JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
That's their podcast. Is Speedwagon explains JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
If our whole podcast was about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, we would be Speedwagon explains, and that's the name of the podcast, and then it would just be the title of the show. But we're not that.
But we're not yet.
Yet.
But
no, we're not that.
Oh my god,
that's probably taken.
So we just lost Zeppeli. Super tragic, right? Like, you love him. His name's Led Zeppelin, which is awesome. He sacrifices himself so that they can proceed on. Jojo is now going on to fight Dio without a Hamon master. Except actually it's fine, 3 more Hamon masters show up immediately after.
They're like, hey, by the way, there's not just one person who's scared about vampires. Turns out a lot of people are scared of vampires and have been telling us to, like, hey, if you see a vampire, do this. And we've been like, okay. And that's just been happening for a while. And then they all showed up because Dio hasn't really been playing it cool with the whole vampire thing. And it's pretty obvious there's a vampire in this castle.
He has
okay.
Oh my god.
So everyone's like, hey.
He said like Dio has like one of the best fucking vampire lines I've ever heard, where like Jojo just asks him like, Dio, how many people have you drank dry of their blood? And he's like, Jojo, how many breads have you eaten?
How many breads have you eaten? It's a lot. Anyway, Dio made some other enemies, and they just show up at the end for the final confrontation.
They just show up. He's this guy, yeah, he's just like, I'm the one who taught Zeppeli how to do Hamon, and these are two of my other disciples because I have plenty of them. This one is Dyer, and this one is Straight So. They only come as a group, you see.
We only have ever known them as a duo, which is convenient for their referencing. It would be like if Luke Skywalker in the second movie was like, Master Yoda, you have so much left to teach me. And Yoda's like, no, die I must. And then he dies. And then he goes to fight Darth Vader. And then right before he fights Darth Vader, he's like, another guy shows up who you've never seen before, and he's like, yes, I taught Yoda how to be a Jedi, and I will teach you how to be a better Jedi also. I see you have Yoda's strength, so let's sort of lean on that a little bit.
But yeah, so these three like hotshots come in and they're like, yeah, fucking, you done good, step aside, we'll handle this. They go to fight Dio and they get wiped. Absolutely.
Shit.
I think they all get chopped. Do people get chopped in half? Does he just like swipe through them half-wise, but like long-wise sometimes and sidewise other times?
This is the point at which Dio reveals that he has the ability to shoot lasers out of his eyes. A thing that vampires can do.
I totally forgot Dio could do that, but he can do that.
Yeah, well,
he loves shooting lasers out of his eyes.
And this is one of the things that I wish they explained a little better. But
Speedwagon, where are you?
He's not shooting.
Even Speedwagon's like,
what the heck just happened? Yeah, he's not actually shooting lasers out of his eyes. What he does is he shoots concentrated blood at such high pressure out of his eyes that it can tear through stone as well as human flesh. So that's just a thing the thing that vampires can do.
Well, Dio for sure. Standard. Dio's becoming like a dire vampire at this point.
Dio's a pretty pro-vampire.
Like, I guess you get more powers the more people you eat. And like, I guess a lot of other vampires historically played it pretty chill. And they're like, I don't know, I'm just going to see what this whole vampire thing is about before I get too wacky and wild. You know, kind of building up slowly. I guess Dio just ate like whole countries worth of people and just became a super powerful vampire in like the span of a month.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
there was no build up for him. He's just like, yes, I'm just very strong.
Right. Well, and we have his whole like beginning thing where he's like, yes, he is the very smart sociopathic character to begin with. And so like all of the other people we've seen who become vampires are just kind of like idiots who die to the sun very quickly. And then Dio's like, no, I got this vampire thing figured out.
Basically, just go out at night and you're fine. I don't know why other people aren't doing that. It's really easy to be a vampire. I can shoot blood lasers.
Go out at night, shoot blood lasers, stick your fingies into people in order to suck their blood out of them.
Don't use your teeth. You're gonna
gross.
That's disgusting. You're gonna get some sort of infection or like we live in the 1900s. You guys haven't had a shower in 4 weeks. I'm not going to put my tongue on you. I'll use my fingies and then I'll go wash my hands later.
Wash my hands. So
Dio knows about germ theory. That's the only reason that he's been more successful at this than other vampires. I'm not going to suck a syphilid. That's gross and that's bad for me. I'll boil you alive and then suck it out.
and then I'll suck it out.
Sterilize the blood.
No, so yeah, we have these 3 Hamon masters that come in, and immediately, like, all 3 of them lose, 2 of them die, it's only Straight So left, and he's, like, incapacitated, and Speedwagon is describing this whole thing to us as it happens.
It's like, oh, the humanity, oh, the vampire-anity.
And so, unsurprisingly, we come to the point, it's the final battle, it's Jonathan Joestar versus Dio once again. And so yeah, we have they have just like this huge ridiculous fight of like Dio shooting lasers at him and such. At one point, I believe Dio hooks into a tendon in Jojo's neck and like threatens to sever it, and Jojo is just like that's Jonathan Joestar's whole thing, is that like he doesn't back down from anything. He doesn't back down from catching like the blade sword hat when it's going to tear through his fingers, and he doesn't back down from this. And he is finally at the end of this battle able to use the sword of luck and pluck to slice Dio's head clean off.
Yeah. Fran, can I ask you, I know you love body horror, right?
You know it.
Yeah, well, up until then, it's been pretty tame. But I think in this scene, he literally stabs his finger into Jojo's neck and like wraps around a little like nerve bundle that's going through his body, and he's just holding it, and he's like, hey, be pretty fucking wild if I just cut this right off, right? Turning you into, I don't know, a potato. That would be pretty cool, right? And like the anime shows, you know how in like hentai, you're going in deep on a girl and it does the x-ray into her womb or whatever, and it's like, hey, this is what's happening in there. That's pretty hot, right? Well, apparently that's all a reference to this moment where they x-ray into Jojo's like back tendons, and you can see this little like wire wrapped around Dio's finger that he's like caressing and like being like, I'm gonna squish it, I'm gonna snip it off, here it comes. It's
I need to stop you. I'm so uncomfortable just even from I watched this happen and I
didn't make the scene. I just watched it unfold as this really, really scary scenario.
I'm pretty sure this is why I never picked up the manga when I saw it in the bookstore, because there was body horror.
I don't think they put that much on the cover. If they did,
no,
but
like you page through it, it's like, I don't like this artwork. There's a lot of gross stuff going on here. Okay.
Some poor lad who went to get some hentai was like, I sure hope I do see some wombs.
Wait a second, this is making me horny for a total. It's making me horny for a totally different reason. I hate this.
Disgusting.
Boy.
I love it.
All right.
So
love it.
I feel like we sort of cut down Jojo's victory here with talk of tendons, but
that's the main thing that happens. Jojo does win. He cuts Dio's head off, and he's like, "This is a dead vampire." Does that
actually kill a vampire, though?
This is a dead vampire for sure. Nothing else could make this vampire deader.
And so,
feel like
so Jojo, you know, he goes on like. He marries his young age sweetheart who Dio stole the kiss from, right? They are ready to go start a new life in America and such. Like, everything's coming up, Jojo. They get on this boat, and wouldn't you know it, once they're like deep out at sea, the boat is full of zombies. It's at that point that one of these zombies, like, pulls out this thing. It's Dio's head in a jar. It turns out that, indeed, the vampire can live as just a head in the jar. And Dio, like, doesn't do the whole anime thing where he has, like, a long conversation with Jojo. He just fucking shoots his laser eyes through Jojo's neck. Jojo's lungs are now filled with blood. Jojo can't breathe anymore. And so
rendering his Hamon useless.
Yes, thank you, Speedwagon. I appreciate
that.
Thank
you, Speedwagon. Thank you, Speedwagon.
Unfortunately, Speedwagon's not there because Jojo's on his honeymoon, I think, and his honeymoon is to move to America.
Something like that.
Something like that.
But yeah, so it all looks pretty bad. But
the boat's on fire at a certain point, right?
Yeah. So what's about to happen? But as we've said before, Jonathan Joestar doesn't back down from anything, even as he's dying from a hole in his side that is filling his lungs with blood. And so he grabs the Dio head, he, like, just starts like he destroys the steam engine in the boat, which like causes the boat to just like start on fire, start exploding, start sinking, and he just like holds Dio's head to his chest as the boat is like sinking under the waves. Dio like crying out to him like, "You suck, Jojo,
Why?
let me go."
What the hell?
And so that is how the first series ends. His wife is able to escape with some random person's baby in hand out to a lifeboat as Jojo sinks with Dio in hand down into the depths. And
that's the end of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
How?
He dies killing Dio once and for all in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
I'm sure that's true. Speedwagon, I have a question. How was Dio able to make more zombos if he didn't have his fingies to suck their blood?
Interesting question, Fran. It turns out that he had one Zombo in reserve to carry his body around, make some more zombies for him, which did just happen to be that stereotypical Chinese man who he was buying the poison from like half a season ago.
Because he needed to be recognized by JoJo at some point, and he was, I guess, the only alive character left to do that.
And they were like, I do want to bring back a Japanese guy trying to do a racist Chinese voice, so we do have to bring this character in for one more scene here.
Okay.
And that's the end of JoJo. And that's how it ends. Now, Ethan,
that's me.
I did actually forget. So
Yeah?
if we were to hentai scan JoJo's wife at this point, does she have a baby inside of her right now?
She sure does. I was gonna not bring up the sexuality, the that they did a plow, but
They're on their honeymoon.
Yeah,
Ethan.
the whole they got married and such. The marriage was indeed consummated, and using his hormone powers, JoJo made sure that the first shot was a good one.
See, so JoJo did perish, Fran, but don't worry because his line still exists.
Mm-hmm.
The Joestar family lives on.
And that's how other JoJos exist, because the one JoJo sacrificed himself, but not before he spooted into his wife.
Okay.
So let that be a lesson to you kids out there. If you're gonna sacrifice yourself to save the world, make sure you plant that seed first.
Yeah. So that's the end of the first arc of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I have to say, like, we got like way deeper into it. We're definitely gonna have to come back to JoJo. We've got so much more JoJo stuff to talk about. But that's gonna have to be another time. I think JoJo might have to be a bit of a recurring series here.
Can you spark note it for me as to how the other seasons are connected to the first one?
No, Fran. No. You have to share this video with all of your friends if you want to hear more about JoJo.
That's right. Maybe if you tune in next time.
Maybe. Although we're probably going to take a little hiatus. Fran sounds like she needs a little bit of time to marinate with JoJo.
Closure. Some closure.
What about closure? He's dead.
He's not,
JoJo's gone.
I know it.
JoJo's gone, Fran. The JoJo that you love, your favorite JoJo, is gone.
I get that, but the Dio situation.
He's at the bottom of the sea, dead with JoJo.
He's at the bottom of the sea. JoJo carried him to the bottom.
Either he has his seed somewhere else, or he comes back. Unclear. That's why I'm trying to get a
Fran, you're making a lot of presumptions here.
Vampires can't fuck with their vampire bodies.
Well, especially if he's just ahead, it would be very difficult for him to do so. But like you said,
that would be very,
the
that
lesson
would be very
to be
difficult
learned
to
is
do
just
that,
when you're
it,
sacrificing yourself is to make sure you have your seed.
I would say that if you were just ahead, you would not be able to fuck anything.
Yes,
that's what I would say.
But that's why before the big battle, did he make sure like he had his Zombo
I feel like this is
in tow.
really ableist.
Fran, could I give you there's no one listening who's just ahead. Fran, could I give you a little tag at the end, a little cliffhanger, so that you can think about something for the next time.
Fine.
It's revealed in a later season, in a later series, that all of the Joestars have a signature birthmark that exists on their body that's in the shape of a star.
Okay.
So every one of the Joestar lineage has a Joestar somewhere on their body.
Okay.
All right.
And that's it. That's all that I've got for you,
Okay,
Fran.
but doesn't help with the other things.
They didn't reveal that. They didn't reveal that in this series, but retroactively, the Jonathan Joestar that we know and loved has a birthmark somewhere on his body, as every Joestar
as does every Joestar. And CJ, I feel like we could try and wrap this up, or you could just quick throw up a to be continued on there.
I mean, I'll throw up a to be continued, but once again, I want to thank you for listening to our podcast about deep lore. I guess it's anime exclusive so far. Hopefully we get something better eventually. But,
I can't guarantee better, but
we're
I'll
gonna
guarantee something else.
We're gonna get into video games.
We've got some plans. We've got some things going forward. But hey, it'll help if you share with your friends. Let them know that this podcast exists. If you have any ideas that you want to give us, clearly we're out of ideas. We've already done our Joestar episode, so. Tweet at Fran again. Here's Fran's tweet again.
At Fran.
At Fran.
At Fran.
Make a Twitter so that you can get all these tweets. Hey guys, editing CJ again. That's at Spices With on Twitter. Get on over there. We'll get to know each other a little bit. You know, build that podcaster listener relationship. You know, see if it's real. See if it's right. But I think until then, that's going to do it for your favorite lore peeps. Again. I am CJ.
I'm Fran.
I'm Walter Cronkite. And that's the way the news goes.
And that's the way the Joestars sink. So cherish your loved ones, why they exist, because they could get eaten by zombies or vampires or any number of other things.